I don't see it as only football. I see it like football is the world's greatest sport. And if we are successful in this sport, we will have visibility and a voice that we never have had.
Shlama everyone, it's Odessa, and it is so good to be back on the Assyrian podcast to bring you this week's episode 216, Assyriska and the Assyrians of Sweden. I have very fond memories of the Swedish football or soccer team Assyriska growing up. I first learned about them at an Assyrian food festival in Los Angeles where they had a booth in the early 2000s. And then throughout my life, I would just see their emblem everywhere, like a sticker on the front of my brother's bedroom door, signed memorabilia through fundraisers our family would support via telethons, and apparel we'd accumulate any chance my mom saw them being sold at an Assyrian event. To us, Assyriska was and is the unofficial Assyrian national football team. I reached out to the chairman, Moussa Esa, to invite him on the podcast to learn more about this team and the rich history of Assyrians in Sweden. We discuss how the club began, its legacy, and Moussa's aspirations for the team's future. We also explore the history of Assyrian migration to Sweden and how Södertälje became known as the unofficial Assyrian capital of Europe. A special thank you to our sponsor, Get Set Tech, for making this conversation possible. Their support helps us continue sharing the stories and history of the Assyrian people. To learn more about them, you can reach them at www.getsettech.com. And now, without further ado, Moussa Esa. All right, Moussa, well, welcome to the Assyrian podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity.
For our listeners, there might be some of them that are very familiar with Assyriska, some that have maybe heard the name, and others who are hearing about Assyriska for the first time. Could you talk a little bit about what is Assyriska?
Yeah, all right. I understand that an Assyriska is a football club based in Sweden. Assyriska is a Swedish word, really. Let's start there, meaning the Assyrian. So when I say Assyriska, you can always think of it in English. I'm saying the Assyrian, meaning to the football team, the Assyrian football team. So Assyriska is a football team, and also when I say football in your country, in the States or outside Europe, it's soccer. So I will use the word football because I'm more familiar to it. But we're talking about the sport called soccer in your land. So Assyriska, who founded in 1974 as a section of a cultural club. It was non-professional. It was founded in 1974, and it was founded about guys who wanted to have fun, like play football, sports for health reasons. Our Assyrian immigrants came to Sweden in 1967 and founded the first cultural club in 1971. So this was a footballing section, like you could say, in the cultural club. It started there, and they wanted to play just for fun. It was non-competitive, but pretty soon they realized that, hey, this is like a platform for identity. Here we can call ourselves Assyrians and Christians without anybody persecute us like in our home countries. And since it got more and more successful, it started to climb in the Swedish football hierarchy. So in the serious system, it began. The system is not like in the States. It's like in the States, it's a closed league. MLS, you must buy your spot to be in that league. But in Sweden and Europe, mostly is like when you start a football club, you can be relegated or promoted. So we started at the lowest division, and 30 years later, we became like world known, world famous, because we were the first club founded by immigrants to reach a country's highest footballing level. So the whole world was visiting Södertälje, where is the town that the club is based in. It's a small town outside the capital, Stockholm. It's about 100,000 population, half of them Assyrians. So We are also called like the New Jerusalem, and we are called like the Assyrian capital in Europe. But the club short history is this, like founded in 1974, has made something very, very great in football, in the football world. But I know that a lot of our people is not familiar with the team. There is some maybe older people who remembers 20 years ago when we played at the highest top level. But today, I don't think not many of our youngsters remembers or knows about Assyriska.
Well, and this is part of the reason why we wanted to reach out and bring even more exposure to the team and the work that you're all doing.
Mm.
Something that I saw on the Wikipedia page that really resonated was Assyriska is often viewed as a substitute national team by the Assyrian people because we don't have a country of our own where we can have a soccer team represented by the Assyrians. This has sort of been like an adopted team for all of us around the world to
Mm.
find, a soccer team that we resonate with. I remember it was the early 2000s. I was at an Assyrian food festival in Los Angeles, and there was a small booth. I think it was just a table, and there was two people there that were representing Assyriska. And I had no idea. That was the first time I had heard of Assyriska, but it was a really cold day, and I needed a sweater. And they were selling apparel. And I saw it. I was like, Assyriska. I was like, what is this? And they come to explain. And I was like, oh my gosh. For me, it was like, obviously it was the first time I was hearing about it. And I was like, and in Sweden, wow. Like I had no idea. So, and I still have that sweatshirt. So that
Wow,
was my initial exposure to it. All coming all the way from Los Angeles.
what a great
Um,
memory.
yeah, definitely.
Uh,
Tell me a little bit more about the team, and because
mm,
it's not like it's an Assyrian team run by with all the players being Assyrian. There's
oh,
Swedes that are there and non-Assyrians. Talk to me a little
yeah.
bit more about that.
Yeah, we could say that. First of all, wonderful memory. Your and my age, we can relate to some of these memories. A lot of people has them with this team. And since we don't have an own state, we're not a nation without a state, this club has become like the unofficial national team of Assyrians. And that's why I also engaged in the club, because I don't see it as only football. I see it like football is the world's greatest sport. And if we are successful in this sport, we will have visibility and a voice that we never have had. We experienced that in 2005 when we achieved the highest level of success for our team. But that we didn't win anything. We just got promoted to the highest league. So since my dream always has been to make our children, our coming generations, proud of being Assyrian, and also to fight for justice for our martyrs, to get attention to the atrocities against us during the several genocides, mainly the biggest one in 1915. We have been using this team during my period as a platform for identity, where we show our language, culture, our history, and also manifest and remember the genocides of people. And we do that all on the pitch or on our clothes, or wear something showing the world who we are, and we have a greater purpose than football. I don't know if I answered the correct question you had.
Yeah, the question was if you can explain how the team runs, because it's not, from what
Okay.
I understand,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not all Assyrian players.
Okay. So when we started the team in 1974, all players were Assyrians. The first years also 100% Assyrians. But since we became more competitive and becoming more professional, unfortunately we couldn't have all players being Assyrian because of competitive reasons. Because you must be then all Assyrian players must be at top level, and you can't find that maybe in no other club in the world to have only one nationality. Maybe yes, even the world the national teams today, sometimes you have like a citizenship and you're Brazilian but you play in Italy. So of course, like people like us who need like role models. We want, our hope, our dreams is to have a 100% Assyrian team. But if we want to compete on the highest top level of football and Europe, maybe you have to be more broad-minded. It's enough to wear the flag. It's enough to wear the crest on your chest and having our colors and our culture. And these last 2 years, like we have printed our language on the whole match kit, match jersey, in like to highlight our anniversary, our 50 years anniversary. And for us, like our youth academy contains of almost 85 to 90% Assyrian players, both girls and boys. So in the youth academy, we are mainly Assyrians, but then you have to make it also to the A team and to be professional. And it's a tough balance to be competitive and also patriot to have only Assyrians. We have to find the right balance there. But since our people need a voice, our people is almost always forgotten or neglected in world broadcast media. We need to be on a professional level where everybody can see us. So for me, it's like I found that this sport is the perfect platform for our people to be seen, to be heard, let the world learn about us through this game. And other teams and countries have bought different clubs so they can market their culture. We have this team, and this is all Assyrians team. We happen only to have based it in Södertälje, founded it here, and we run it here. But I mean, tomorrow maybe you would be the chairman, Adessa, not me. I don't know, but I want to say just for all Assyrians all around the world, we have always been divided by different reasons. If you don't talk like for right now, you're in Canada, I'm in Sweden. That's geographically not our habitat, really not natural. We are divided by languages, our different Eastern and Western dialects. We are divided by church affiliations, many of them. We are divided by political parties. But if we had a nation, an own state, we would all be cheering for our national team, no matter the division between these parties, because that's how it looks in all other countries. So, but since we don't have that, we want to like unite all Assyrians all around the world to stand behind this team, because this team could make a lot of difference for our people all over the world. Like I said, football is visible. All the news media is always broadcast everything. We play games every week. Our representation, like me, I could be always in the media talking, being interviewed. Then from there, I can say what we want to get out to the world. So, like for example, this last year, 2025, was the 110 memory of Seifel, okay, of the genocide in southeastern Turkey. Yeah, we decided last year before the game that we should wear black armband through all our games. And on this black armband, it said 110 years. We will never forget your sacrifice. Okay, so we made like a stand for. We played 35 games, home and away, always with this black armband. So it got an attention. People asked, "Why is this?" And sometimes we get questions from the Swedish Football Federation. Don't mix politics and sports, okay? But we always say like, this is not politics; it's human rights issue. All people on our board, we have lost some relatives during this genocide. And if you want to fine us, but we will do this always. So we did that, and now next year it's a World Cup year, and the World Cup is mainly in the United States and in Canada and Mexico. We want to this year's we want to make a commemorative jersey for this year. So we are planning to have the all martyrs name on the shirt and villages that were affected during the genocide. And somewhere on the jersey, we will have also the year for 1950. So what I'm trying to say is like, I have never seen this club only being a football club. Okay, I see it like this could be a platform. We could use football to have a platform that can put us on the agenda of the world's political climate, and also claim recognition, make future generations proud, and also take responsibility for a generation we have lost.
I love that. And I can imagine that is very impactful for especially young Assyrians who are learning about who they are and their identity and there's this place in their place in this world, and that they have this team that they can affiliate with. But not just that, they're learning even more about their history and their heritage through it. So I love that you do that. What is it like to have non-Assyrians wearing our jerseys, whether they're playing on the team or they're fans of the team? That must feel really special.
Of course, it feels. I always like maybe twice a year when we have new players. I have a lecture for them, because like when you do something like this, like you have black armbands on the players who comes from Africa or Ukraine or Namibia or other countries. You must explain why should you wear this black armband, because it's a sensitive matter, like you stand for something. So I have always twice a year lectures with our all our players, even Assyrians, because also Assyrians, young Assyrians being born here, they tend to forget and they're not always that interested. Like I can tell you, for example, this year, last year, when I took them in the room and I spoke about myself, and I told them, do I look like a Swedish person? And I started to, you know the right reason why I am here in Sweden, or in Europe, or in Canada, or in United States, or wherever we are now, in Chile, South America. No, why? So then I started like, I showed them picture from my youth in Syria, and then how my grandmother told me about Seifo and why they didn't want to risk another generation of genocide, and why we got here. So I saw these as non-Assyrian players, they started to wanted to cry, like they and afterwards the coach told me, Musa, you have given us an argument now that they must fight much more, because you have given them purpose to these players. Because before we motivate them in sport, but you have motivated them like a level higher than sport. So it's our responsibility to do wherever, well, like an Assyrian, we have a responsibility always to advocate these things. Why? Because in the future, our children, our grandchildren will ask us, because they know. In America, it's different. You can say we're American or Assyrian American, but in Sweden, we stand out. We don't look like Swedes. We don't, even if we speak Arabic or Farsi or like our home languages, Turkish. We're not Turks. We're not Iranian. We're not Arabs. Okay, so what are we? So every time. So I see it like a mission to give our youth something to be interested in, and maybe from following our team and seeing our flag, also dig into our history. Maybe somebody will write a poem or paint a picture, or do something related to their origins. It's important to know who we are, so we can give it further to, and so we don't get lost.
For the Assyrian players that you have recruited, I'm assuming they're not all Swedish based. You've recruited them from other countries? And if so, like what are some countries that you have recruited them from, if you have?
Mostly they are from Sweden.
Oh, they
Mostly
are
they're
mostly
from
from
Sweden.
Sweden. Okay.
Yeah, yes. So I don't remember. We had, yes, we had some Assyrian from Germany or Switzerland once, twice, but mostly they are from Sweden. We have sometimes from Syria, someone from Iraq, from the home countries. But football federations in each country wants to make it difficult. They want players from their country. They don't want competition from other countries. So when we bring in, if I would bring in an Canadian player or an American Assyrian player, I would have to pay salary, more salary, higher salary for him. So they're making it harder for us to recruit from outside of Europe.
Got it. That makes sense. Thank you for explaining that.
Mm.
I didn't know that. One of the players that I know has moved on to FC Barcelona, Rooney
Mhm.
Bargi, is
But
a
that's it.
yes,
Mhm.
is a Swedish player. Did he play on the Assyriska team?
No, unfortunately, no, because he lived first he comes from Syria,
Mhm.
and he lives in South Sweden. So, and he got successful at a very young age. So we don't have any scouting like everywhere. We don't have scouts to look up new young players. We don't have that economy. So we haven't got our eyes on him. And he became professional when he was 15. Like it was impossible because he went from Sweden to Denmark to FC Copenhagen, and from there Barcelona took him. So it would have been impossible for us to reach him. But of course, we are proud since we are thinking of him as an Assyrian. But still, for me, if you don't call yourself Assyrian, it's hard for me to put label on you. I don't know the family. We have been trying to get in touch with them just to like congratulate them and stuff, but they're hard to get right now. So I followed Barcelona before, but now I am following it even more just to see when he is playing, because this is a great example what football can do. Because as soon as you see an Assyrian name, like you have one in Arsenal named Saliba, last name, directly we as Assyrian, we are looking for role models. So we Google them and say, oh look, he's like Assyrian. So imagine what could happen if we had an own team in the highest competition ever, like the European Champions League, and we are playing against Barcelona. We are meeting Barcelona. This could happen if we get the right fundings. This is a possibility.
Yeah, why not? I love that. Let's learn a little bit about yourself, Musa. Tell me about your family and your family's journey to Sweden and, how you ended up becoming the chairman of the club, how long you've been the chairman.
Okay. Me myself, I was born in Syria, northeast of Syria, Jazeera, Al Malkiya. I was 6 years old when we came to Sweden in 1978. Came to Södertälje, but then we moved around a little bit in Sweden because my father was a entrepreneur. He bought different places, and we moved to 3, 4 different places. But in 2000 we moved back to Södertälje at a young age. Like my mother and father never spoke about Assyrianism or Christianity or Muslims, because being children to genocide survivors, I have learned that not many of them would give this history, or they didn't want to speak about it, especially being surrounded by Muslim neighbors. Even if we fled from Turkey to Syria, my ancestors, still we didn't feel like secure. So I remember when I was a teenager in school, a Swedish classmate asked me, "How come you're in Sweden? Why did you come here?" And I said, "I don't know." He said, "Was it because of war?" I said, "No." "Were you poor?" I said, "No, I don't think we were poor." "But why are you here?" I said, "Really, I don't know." I haven't reflected on it. I don't know. So when I got back home, I asked my mother and father and my parents. They said, we just wanted you to have better opportunities than us, and this country is more free, and it's a lot of more possibilities in this country." And then they didn't explain anymore. But my grandmother on my mother's side, she was visiting us. She was living with us at that time. So when they were away on work, my parents, she took me aside and she said, Moussa, come, I want to tell you the real reason why we are here in Sweden. I said, oh, what, what is she going to tell me? I mean, my parents told me yesterday. But then she started like we sat in the kitchen, I remember, and she started to tell me about the genocide and about how her father and mother, how they lived through the genocide. And the pictures and the story she told me, like I thought that I remember still, like when I was teenager, I thought, no, grandmother she's exaggerating, like she's making this up because it sounds like a scary movie, like. But I listened, and then when I got a little bit older, I started to like look her history up. Like I was interested in my origins and my history and my ancestors, and I came across several texts that not even confirmed her story. But it was she didn't exaggerate. She was doing the opposite. And I read all of this. It was like her words told by diplomats, French, English, Americans, diplomats who were there in those areas when the genocide took place. And from that, I got very like I said, I it took me hard to read about this because I knew this was my ancestors, and I felt like I am a I have my ancestors is victims, like they are lived through a genocide. We are always hearing or reading or seeing about the Holocaust, but I didn't know anything about of our people, my family. So that took me very hard, and then later on I started. I worked in the Assyrian Federation of Sweden, and through this time I always reading about the genocide and fighting for recognition and like lobby for our people. And from that on, I also started to follow the team like a supporter. This was in the 90s, and I love the sport, of course, but I love my people more because it became like a double interest. Like this is football and my people, so combined interest. So, but I also found out that the football moved people, gathered them to the stands, to the arena, to the stadium, chanting our songs, and built this community. Like every country, but this was Assyrians, and for the first time we could like sing our songs in the stadium and show our identity and put big flags to say to Turkey like recognize the genocide, and we could do this. So I became a board member long time ago, but since 2019 I am the chairman for the club, and now we are fighting like we're fighting through hard times. We fought like for 2 years from Corona. And then we have a lot of discrimination in our town.
Like what kind of discrimination?
Yeah, like this, it's time like for right-wing politics right now, and us like immigrants, we are being like called out for being like cheaters, robbers, and criminals and stuff, because some of our youth is participating in this kind of activities. But the majority of us are like law-abiding citizens, and we are doing like a lot of things for the community. But since the politics is like that, so we have been we have been like discriminated. I feel it like the club is discriminated by the town hall. It's nothing they can change. What they are saying is not rhyming with what they're doing to us. So we are fighting a lot. They have trying to like talk down our trademark, and we have lost a lot of sponsors from the Swedish companies, and now we are relying like on our people. So we don't have the capacity. Like I could tell you, right, in economic, if we speak economic terms, we cannot afford to play at this third level in Swedish football. We don't have the money for it. We spend less than half of the other teams in our league, and still we are fighting and we are competing. But in the long run, this will not help us, because you know at the end At the end of the day, economy is we need economy. So we are fighting. But if we talk ideological reasons, we cannot afford not to play at the highest level, because as low as we play, that that is how we are forgotten, and we don't have any voice. We cannot be seen. But the higher we play, there's more visibility. We have a louder voice, and we can make a stand to tell the story of ourselves in our own words, not to let anybody else tell our story and point at us and tell us who or what we are. So that's the difficulties. I think you started by asking me about the family and my story, and this. I don't know. I think I answered it, like how I
Yeah, you
became a
did. Yeah.
chairman and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah. Yes. You said you became chairman in 2019,
yeah.
which was, yeah, you're right. Right before Corona happened. So it's been an interesting time for you in terms of leadership for the club. Yeah.
I have to tell you also something. Like my board right now, we are the first board working totally volunteers. We don't have any employees. We pay our top level players and coaches, but we in the board, we are volunteering, and we are the first board, and we have been doing this for 7 years because the lack of the economy we have. So that's also a challenge for us because we have full-time jobs, and we are doing this like in evenings and weekends and trying to keep this ship floating. But with the right money, we would have the direction and the speed also to be that real national team for all Assyrians all over the world and take our responsibility.
That can't be easy to juggle this on top of full-time work. I thought this was your full-time work. So that's impressive on
Yeah.
its own. But yes, I guess it does speak to the current state of where the team is at financially, which we'll have a chance to talk about later in terms of how people abroad can support the team.
Mm.
You'd recently written an article titled Assyrian Revival Through Soccer, talking about a patriotic poem written by Naum Faik 100 years ago that serves for inspiration for the team, which is fitting because last week was Naum Faik Day. And I even saw yesterday that Linda George, the singer, had performed the song Hoden Hoshem Show, which was performed at a season opener in 2005. So talk more
Mm.
about that article and what Naum Faik's poem means to you.
Wow, that poem puts everything like where it must be, because that poem, written almost 100 years ago, is as actual as it was when it was written. So that poem is like, it's called "Awake, Son of Assyria," and its message is like, awake and see the world, how enlightened has become, and time is running out, and if we don't wake, we will lose everything that was us. And I'm interpreting this like, if we don't, he's also saying like, if we don't gather and take strength from each other and fight for what was ours, we will be lost forever. And I feel like our generation now is like, we are the last Assyrians. We are the last, or the first frontier, because if we don't succeed in preserving who we are, and our language and culture, and then we will forget everything. And the sad thing is that we will forget about the sacrifice that our martyrs lived through. They died for us to be alive, and we are alive, and we're not even in our homelands. We are far, far away from our homelands, living a life like they never existed. Okay. So for me, that poem is like putting everything where it belongs. I would say to all Assyrians, like, it's time to wake up, because the world is enlightened. We have never had these great opportunities to communicate and get our message out. So still, why are we sleeping? Why are we sleeping? And why are we not put our effort where it should be? So for me, now I'm in this football team. But if you show me another Assyrian institution that can give us the visibility that football gives us, I will change. I will help you there. Okay, so what you are doing in the Assyrian podcast is amazing. That's also because you are connecting us to other like-minded Assyrians, and also spreading our message out. And this helps us to network. So you are doing the work of what Naum Fayak says in this poem of his. So for me, it's like we have to do this the right way. Football is the world's greatest sport. It can bring us to the world's greatest stage, and we don't even like we don't demand much from our Assyrians all over the world. We're not asking one person to put $100,000 or something. Or we say just put in what you can, what you are able to. If it's $5, if it's $50, if it's whatever you can, if you think this is important, because actually this team could could awake everyone and revive Assyrian identity through football. Because let me tell you something, and this is, I'm not saying anything against. I love our church, I love our patriarchs, and I love my religion, and I'm a believer. Okay, but let's be honest. If we put pictures of Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi, or even the youngest star right now, Lamine Yamal, in front of our youth, they will know all three names. But if you put our patriarchs pictures, the three patriarchs we have, I don't think they know their names. They will say they are a priest. They won't even know their titles. This is making me sad. Of course, it's making me sad. But this is reality. We have to face reality. We have to know which tool to use and when. So for me, it's like football. Once again, Assyriska is much more than football. It's a place that we can bring youth together because they follow football. They read about football all the time. They're interested in sports. And from there, give them everything, get them together, make them strong so we don't lose ourselves.
Amen to that. For many of our listeners, they've never visited Sweden, let alone Södertälje.
Mm.
You were talking about how in the 60s people had migrated there. Was that around the time the 60s, the 70s, where a lot of the Assyrians from Turkey, Syria were coming to Sweden, and what was the opportunity there?
It was a very special story why we came to Sweden, the Assyrian population. In 1967, the UN and I don't know what you call it, some churches wanted to help. They heard a lot about Middle Eastern Christians living in like refugees in Lebanon. Okay, so they wanted to help these refugees. We didn't make the choice as a people. So UN and some churches went to Lebanon, and they put up like a stand and asked about this Christian people who was like living in refugees, and asked them if they wanted to come to Sweden. They took with them about 200 people, and one of them was a relative of mine. He was 16 years old. He saw like people were queuing and standing in line for something, and he didn't know what it was. Maybe they sold bread, or he didn't know. He just stood in the line and came to Sweden. So that was the story about the two first hundreds who came to Sweden. And then from there, they like uh, began to learn the language and work, and then they wrote letters home and explained how it is, and should we stay here, or it's a lot of cold, it's dark in the winter, it's not like home, but still, I asked even my players, who would want to leave the sun, the warmth, our homelands, our views, our water, uh, on his own free will. Nobody would do that. But still, even it was the opposite to they didn't know the language. Everything was against them. They decided to come here, and they started to like organize not churches at that time, but like a place that you can pray, and also clubs. And as I told you, they came to Södertälje because Södertälje is a small town outside of the capital, Stockholm. And it was by coincidence, I think. It was like there were some work here, like industry, and they started to settle. And the first first cultural club was built in 1971. Only 4 years later, like they came. So from there, we have built like the city now contains of 50% of Assyrians. We are 100,000 people, and like I told you before, like it's the Assyrian capital in Europe, and it's something huge because, as you said, Linda George was here. Uh, I met her just an hour ago before I came here because she is also great because she sang that song 20 years ago, and then she saw our movie, and through contacts she called me and she said, Musa, I like to get back to be that ambassador for Assyriska because I love this club. I want to do everything for this club. So she had a party in Germany and one in Denmark, and in between this, she's amazing. She made time to be at the premiere and share her wonderful voice with us. And she's like going out to all her fans and say like, this club is important because she sees our vision also. And she's just saying to people to donate and help the club. So that is Södertälje. We have everything here. Like we have the churches here, we have the clubs here, the TV channels, Assyrians. It's like the it's Chicago, like it's Chicago, but it's Sweden. Yeah.
That's a nice comparison. For those that live in Södertälje, are they primarily Assyrians that speak a Western dialect? Are there also Assyrians that speak Eastern dialect, Madenhoye?
It's both, but it's mainly Western dialect. It's both. The Eastern Assyrian Church of the East is like 20 minutes from here. Like the patriarch is here also, but it's not in Södertälje. But mainly it's like the first population who came from southeastern Turkey. So then we have a lot of like about the politics first from Iraq and then from Syria. So why the Swedes call it the New Jerusalem is because that all the Middle Eastern Christian, the majority of the Middle Eastern Christians has ended up here in Södertälje.
Mm.
So there is a lot of both dialects, but mostly the Western.
Okay. And because of the team, has it been easier to explain to Swedes, in other cities and stuff when you're trying to explain your background, who you are, to be able to reference like, are you familiar with Assyriska? And that kind of opens up the conversation or some familiarity.
Uh, the club has done a lot, has made it a lot much easier for us to explain who we are because of our success. Before us, this town didn't have any football club worthy the name. Okay, so when we founded this club and took it to the highest level, Södertälje became more known in Sweden and abroad because of Assyriska. Because like I told you before, when we got promoted to the highest level, I mean, I was working in the, remember the Hoyada magazine, Assyrian Federation's magazine? I was working like an editor there. Each week we had a news team from a different country visiting us. And the only thing they wanted to know, they were coming for football reasons, but they wanted to know, who are you? Do you really speak Jesus language? Is this really your alphabet? Did your ancestors survive a genocide? Is this true? And you know what that makes, because all of the world visited little Södertälje. Nobody knew about Södertälje. But this is the power of the sport, football. When you get recognition and you become successful, everybody wants to know who you are. And we told our story. I mean, Swedish television made a documentary of 5 episodes about us, calling it the national team with no own country. Okay. So it's out there, but it's in Swedish. I have tried to like get it and subtitle it somehow to make it more accessible for you guys. But it makes a lot. Like the biggest author, a famous author in Sweden, he wrote like an essay about us, and he called it like a miracle has happened in Södertälje. And the most famous and most awarded journalist, football journalist, he speaks about all the great teams, like from Brazil, Argentina to Manchester City, Juventus, Milan, Real Madrid, but also about Assyriska. 2 hours and 40 minutes. He has a podcast only about one season of ours. So what I say, tell me another institution that gets so much attention because of its work, because we are seen like a Swedish football club in the Swedish series system, but we are also the national team of Assyrians, because we will always take responsibility for our identity, always. And there has not been a year that we haven't manifested our genocide. 2 years ago, we were participating in a child's play, in a Gilgamesh child's play, on stage with live audience. I put the 18, our most famous players, and they played an Assyrian army for the children. So we are trying hard to tell everybody that this is your team. We are working for identity, and we are doing this. We are volunteering. But if we want to take the next step, we have to become more professional, and for that we need your help.
That was going to lead me to my next question. How can people from abroad support the team, support the initiatives that you're doing?
Okay, so this is a very good question. I have an answer for it, but let me tell you just about this year is very important here. Like I told you, the World Cup is on your continent, and we really would hope that our Assyrian people wear our jersey and showcased it for the world. We are calling it, since it has the names of our martyrs, the campaign will be named "Every Thread Remembers." So that's the question. We have donation links. We have donation links on our website. I could give it to you. You could write it. I know, if you have information on the podcast. We have donation links through credit cards, debit cards, through PayPal. We have in different currencies. You can donate once, or you can donate monthly or yearly, and you can choose the sum by yourself. My message to fans, supporters, Assyrians, patriots is like, if we want this to happen, you will watch the movie. You will get the movie. Also, we have it's 4 minutes long, and we will spread it across our social media. If we want this to happen, you have two choices. Otherwise, you can give us your time, helping us by your time in your profession, open door for us, introduce us to other people, or give us a little donation, a small donation. Otherwise, we will not succeed. This is not. It's like math. 1 + 1 is 2. So this is what I would like to say. But still, this team is like, we are looking also for people to donate and help us, but also for businessmen or patriots to make this as their own like project. Like, this is not. We are open. They can contact me if they're interested in football and know what football can do in the Champions League and what it means. And they're patriots. They love their country. They love their flag. They can always get in touch and see what we can do. So this is what we want to do, and then it's up to people to also feel that this is important. If they do, we are happy we are appreciating all the help we can get.
Sounds great. We'll be sure to include all of that information when the episode comes out. The last question that we ask all of our podcast guests is we have listeners that listen from all over the world. So if you had one thing to say to all of the Assyrians listening, what would it be?
I say all Assyrians, all people call themselves Assyrians, are my brothers and sisters. I love you wherever you are. I'm proud of whatever you are achieving, what you are doing, and all of you in my generation that feels like we are the last Assyrians. Don't give up. Fight for what you believe in, and with nothing comes out without hard work. You must work hard. You must believe God is with you, and everything will come to be what it should be. I really reach out to you because this is your team. Like I said in the beginning, this is not my team. This is your team also, and it could bring us on the biggest stage. And we need all the help because we have succeeded once. I call it version 1.0. We need the next version, and the next version we cannot do it without your help. And last thing also I want to say, if you want to meet us and meet me, I will be in Chicago, hopefully, God willing, this coming September and at the AANF convention, where we will also showcase our movie there, present our vision. Hopefully, we could talk more, and you could ask your questions. And then, if the Assyrian podcast want to share my email for people who want to ask more questions, I would answer as fast as I can because like I said, I'm volunteering for this. I'm doing this for evenings and weekends. So that is what I want to say, nothing more.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it out to somebody who could benefit from listening. We'll catch you next time for episode 217.